What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the wildest things I've ever seen in prison. A lot of times in my interviews, I ask other people like, hey, what's one of the wildest things you've ever seen? What's one of the craziest things you've ever experienced? And people have hit me up and they say, you don't tell a lot of your own personal stories. And the reason why I don't do a lot of that stuff about federal prison is because I really don't try to glorify that place, right? Spent 17 years, 5 months, and 21 days of my life in federal prison. Some of the most dangerous places in the country, hands down. Trust me when I tell you that. But we'll talk about some of the wildest things. And most of the time, anybody that's ever been to federal prison, they could probably tell you the same thing. Some of the most wildest things happen when people get drunk. When people get drunk, dangerous things happen. And when I say that, I say this. Imagine sticking a bunch of guys in prison. They got 40, 50 years, 100 years, life. They got nothing to lose. Now get them all drunk. And you guys all know about beer muscles, right? People get beer muscles. People start getting tough. And some of the wildest things I've ever seen was when my cellie hit the copper. Hit him 9, 10, 11 times. That was one of the wildest things. That and the thing when the Norteños, in USP Lee, the Norteños had hit that bulldog up. I've spoke about this a little bit before. But there's other wild things that happen in prison too. When I was in Youngstown, Ohio, and we'll get back to Adam. That's the moral of the story today. When I was in Youngstown, Ohio, this was a private prison. You got cops that are working there that never been cops before. People are just like, hey, man, I need a job. They're like 21 years old getting a job at a prison. And again, most of the people in here are pretrial detainees, dudes that are just getting arrested off the street. Some of these dudes are in here for, killing people. Some of these dudes are in here for major drug crimes. Some of these dudes are in here for, gun charges, shooting people. And what they would do is we'd all be locked in, right? When they do their little count times, right? And we got locked in not that much over there. It was a wild place. But then they would hit the cells. You pretty much hit the cells at the same time, right? Dudes would be upstairs jumping off the top tier to get to the phone. There was like 4 phones on this table. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like a table that everyone would eat at, right? But they converted it into a table where there's phones stuck to the back of each other. 4 phones. So there's 4 phones and 80 people? And everybody wants to call their people. Everybody wants to call home. They used to sell these little cards on commissary. I think they were $10. You get 15 minutes for $10, some wild shit. Dudes would jump off the top tier to get to that phone. So I seen this dude jump off the top tier, kid from Cleveland. He jumps off the top tier, boom. When he hits the ground, he's reaching for the phone. Another dude's running out of his cell, he's reaching for the phone. So they're reaching for the phone. They start tussling over the phone, right? Dude takes the receiver and starts whacking this kid in the head. 2 or 3 times it took before he split this kid wide open. You ever see someone get split wide open and the blood just starts going? And I'm like, holy. And after that, I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to get the phone when everybody's done with the phone. Because it's almost impossible to get to that phone, man. You want to fight, you want to wrestle. I know you want to call your people, but sometimes you got to think like, you know what? In about an hour, them phones will be open. Hour and a half, 2 hours, them phones will be open. Everybody don't have money to call home. Everybody don't have a phone card. So eventually you're going to get that phone. Dude's whacking this dude with the phone. Police are running in there. They're scared. Back up. Stop fighting. You always hear that. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Dude's just gushing blood and fighting this kid, wrestling him. Boom, 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 boom. Cops jump on him. You know what they do. They come in. They end up tackling the kid to the ground. He's on the ground. I'm dying. I'm dying. And I'm like, this is one of the most serious things I've seen, like in the beginning of my bid, right? And he's screaming, I'm dying. I'm dying. I think the blood scared him. The cops got him on the ground. And it was it was vicious, man. It was a lot of blood from that plastic phone. That shit's hard as hell. They end up bringing in the stretcher. They put him on the thing. He's like, I'm dying. I'm dying. And I'm like, holy shit. I don't mean to laugh, but it's just shocking. Man, when you see stuff like that, it's shocking. And then, eventually I make it to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, right? And like I said, the two wildest things to me, not even when people got killed, because I've seen people murdered. I've seen people stabbed to death in prison. And you might think, man, that's got to be the wildest thing ever, right? I mean, it's a little wild when you see someone like jump back and they're like, and they hit the ground and they take their last breath. And I've told this story before on the channel, but when that thing happened with the Norteños and the bulldog, right? The Norteños were like, look, bro, you're not staying in this cell. Dude was bucking. I've spoke about this before. And he's walking around the yard. They tell him, hey, man, come out on the move, right? 5 o'clock move before they call chow. Come out on the early rec move. So dude goes out there on the early rec move. And, the Norteños got these dudes running around. Like they're jogging. They're just out there jogging in their tennis shoes. And they end up hitting this kid, man. They end up hitting this kid, man, viciously hitting him. And he's bleeding, coat full of blood. And the Norteños are running like they're jogging. The dudes that do put in that work, they throw them the knives. They catch the knives in stride, keep jogging. Like they're on the yard jogging. They throw the knives down, they get rid of them, put them in the drain, whatever they do. And this kid's walking, and he lives like, 2 doors down from me. His name was Herman, bulldog, bald head kid. I don't remember his last name. And he's like, man, help me, man, help me. And for real, man, in that moment, you might think, man, in prison, a lot of people tell prison stories, the tough guy, and man, I ain't even talking to this dude. And really, man, I'm just like, bro, you got to keep walking, man. You got to make it to the shack. Get to the shack, you can get the medical, man. And really, in my mind, I'm thinking, man, this dude's dead, man. This kid's going to die. I can't help this kid. You imagine if I helped that kid? Me and him will both be trying to get to the shack. I couldn't help him, man. For those of you that don't know, federal prison is racially segregated, right? It is. It's not, it's just how it works. It's just what it is. So if I would have jumped in and tried to help this kid or even walk him to the gate, not going to happen, man. We wouldn't have made it to the gate. I just keep it real with you. We wouldn't have made it to the gate. But eventually he does make it to the gate. He goes in the back. The captain's out there. He's screaming, I want to know who the fuck's in that tower. Because the tower didn't even see this, right? Some people think in prison, man, like, early move, wreck move, ain't nothing really happening. A lot of shit happens on that wreck move. Cops up there in the tower. He might be kicked back. Nowadays, he might be on his phone. He might be on Facebook. He might be on a movie. He might be, I don't know, he might be doing some wild shit. You never know what he's doing. But dudes miss this stuff, man. Dude gets stabbed numerous times, and the cop misses it. The captain's out there screaming. He probably thinks that when he's seen the dude, he probably seen the dude in the hallway like, this dude's going to die. So now, if he dies on his watch, I'm sure there's some repercussions. There's some, what are you guys doing over there? Get things in order. Probably coming down from central office. The warden comes out there. They're screaming. They want to know what's going on. Lock everybody down. And eventually they come in. They lock down the prison, and they take all the Norteños out. They're no longer on the yard. And eventually when they take the Norteños off, what do you think they do? They start bringing in the Southsiders. Start bringing in the Mexican mafia, right? So that was one of the wildest things that I've seen. But the most wildest thing, like I said, it always happens when people are getting drunk in prison, right? People are partying. They think they're having a good time. And eventually, man, people start fighting each other. Your own homeboys start fighting each other when they get drunk. People get beer muscles, man. What are you looking at? Or, in the back of their mind, they're like, man, I never really liked this dude. And now they're over here, they're sipping away, Like they'll have, like this right here, they fill that full of moonshine. Well, Chad, where the hell do they get moonshine? Prison vodka, where do they get it? I talk about it in the book. They make this stuff, man. People are in their cells making this stuff, right? They get a batch of wine going. After the wine's done, they end up burning the alcohol off. They hook up these wires. They get these big jugs. They got a piece of metal, off the wall, sticking inside this big bucket, and it's creating the heat and the steam, and the alcohol is boiling off. They got a hose, and you're like, man, this looks like some Weird Al Yankovic type shit, right? This crazy science project. And they're burning off the alcohol. You fill up these bottles, you start selling them. What did these go for back then? $30 for a water bottle, maybe $40 in stamps. And people are drinking this stuff, getting drunk. They run out of that. They start drinking wine. Now they're drunk. They got the music playing. Dude's looking over like, man, I don't like this dude, man. Never liked this dude. You know what? I'm going to do something to this dude. And that's how crazy shit happens in prison. And then, we're going to talk about what happens with Adam, right? Adam gets drunk. Big dude. And this day reminded me, man, for some reason, I always reflect on this, like, this is like gladiator days, man. Because Adam was a big dude. I don't know, 6'2", 6'3", black hair, tall, big dude. He looked like one of them gladiators in a gladiator pit. He's drunk. Stevie Burke's looking at him. They were like, mad. You ever see, and this ain't no knock on white dudes. You ever see them white dudes be like, you want to fight me, bro? They break a beer bottle. I mean, this is what that night was like, man. Bunch of drunk white dudes like ready to get busy. And make no mistake, man, these dudes get busy. They definitely get busy. They have no problem putting that knife in you, right? And Adam especially, man. Adam was serving a big sentence. I think he was serving 20 years or 25 years out of the state, which I should have done a story on his case. And then he has 10 or 11 years in the Fed. So, he's looking at like 35 years, good time. He'd do about what, 29, 28 years. But he's going to get out of prison, right? Adam's definitely getting out of prison. At least he was. Not anymore. And well, if he does, he's going to be an old man. But anyway, we have this cop in the unit that's constantly harassing our car. For those of you that don't know what a car is kind of like a group of dudes from wherever you're from. Some people, say it's a gang. I guess it is a gang to a certain extent, right? Bunch of dudes together without a gang name. We're a car. We're the East Coast car. We're the Dirty South car. We're the New York car. I mean, that's how it works. So anyway, man, these dudes are getting drunk. We have this cop that's constantly harassing the shot caller, who at the time was Stevie Burke. And they're pretty much like, you know what, man, I'm going to go say something to this punk. We got a dude in our car. He's like, man, I'm going to go say something to this kid. Preston and Adam are like this. Preston's actually from Texas, but he's in the East Coast car. How was that possible? That's another story. But anyway, Preston's like, man, I'm about to go press this cop, man. I'm going to say something to this cop. He's down there. He's beefing with the cop. Him and the cop get in a wrestling match. He falls on the ground. His pants come down, right? His ass is showing, his little white ass. He's like mooning the whole unit. And people are laughing, man. People are laughing. Now, remember, Adam's drunk. Adam's a big dude. He's like, man, they're embarrassing us. He feels embarrassed instantly. He's like, yo, man, I'm about to go hit this cop up. I'm going to go stab the cop. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm kind of like enjoying the show, not going to lie to you, right? Like, I think it's funny that, this dude just wrestled this guy to the ground that, at times I looked at like, I don't know, man. He was from Texas, right? He wasn't a bad kid, but I don't know. You get that thing where, man, it should just be all East Coast dudes, right? So anyway, man, he wrestles the kid down, ass showing. And Adam's like, yo, I'm about to go hit this dude. And I'm like, yeah, right. He's like, no, I'm about to put in that work. And that's what he does. He goes in our room, pops the shelf, right? Because we have this little fake shelf that I spoke about. Pulls out a couple knives. He goes down there and he hits the cop. And it's almost like Matrix, man. Like everything's in slow motion. Like you can hear things, man, that it's like, whoo, whoo, whoo. And I'm like, wow, man, I'm actually witnessing this. All the stories about prison, this is it. This is the true story. This is what's really happening. And Adam's down there, man. He's on the cop. What do you think the cop's doing? He's trying to get away. He's fighting for his life. And this is one of them cops where the cop was like, he was an asshole cop. He wanted to walk around. He went above and beyond his job. Some people come in, they're like, look, man, I'm doing my 8 and I'm out of here. If you ain't raping, robbing, and killing, man, I don't care what you do. This guy was like, just on like, I'm going to take whatever you got. Get on, I'm a cop. Maybe he should have been a Kentucky State Trooper. He probably would have probably fit in better, right? So now all of the things that he's ever probably thought at home when he's laying in his bed, because unfortunately, people get murdered in these places. And they get murdered pretty consistently, at least stabbed, right? So all the stories that he used to think about, all his fears, they were coming true. And he's fighting for his life. He's running for his life. Cops come in. They finally come in, right? They finally come in to try to save him. They rush him out of there. They get him out of there. And now Adam's standing in the unit. And I'm telling this different than from the book. I'm telling it from a perspective right now. The story's still the same. Don't leave crazy comments. Story's still the same because it's what really happened. But you're sitting there and you're like, it's just, I'm looking at Adam and it's like everything's slow motion. And they're like, Adam, put down the knife. He's like, acting like he's going to, hit the cops. They're trying to talk to him. He's all sweaty, long, black, scraggly hair, big dude, drunk. And you're like, this dude's about that business, man. And I lived with this dude. I was this dude's cellie. What would have happened one night if he was drunk and decided, you know what? I don't like this dude. And I was sleeping. What could you possibly do? What could I possibly do? He pulls out a bone crusher. What is a bone crusher, Chad? A bone crusher is a piece of steel that people cut out of their beds. Yeah. Could be this big, could be this big. It's all steel. You cut it out of your bed, right? How do you cut it out? Well, everybody knows. You use a nail clipper. You can use the hair clippers. They took the hair clippers away. But there's all kinds of ways, man. People get stainless steel. They're in there. You work it. And a bone crusher, they call it a bone crusher. Why? Because it goes into you like butter. They say it chips your bones. Boom, go into you. Just hit your bones. Go all the way to the bone. Dangerous. What happens if he woke up and said, you know what? I'm going to grab this bone crusher and I'm going to leave Chad's blood on the razor wire tonight. That's the dude that I was living with. These are the dudes that you'll be around. Where sometimes dudes just snap. And that night he snapped. Eventually, man, they ended up getting, Adam under control. They take him out of the unit. I think they put him in the hole for a couple hours and they ship him to USP McCrary. They get him out of the prison. Eventually, I say, they come in, they want to lock everyone down. People are going crazy, man. Whenever it's the cops against the prisoners, it's like there's two teams. Dudes are throwing shit, soap, soda. People are lock in. People are like, man, we ain't going nowhere. Like, whenever there's a violent thing going on, it's like, for a lot of people, sometimes, dudes are like, man, shit, I'm going to my cell. But a lot of times, People want to watch. They want to witness. They want to be a part of the violence. They want to be a part of what's going on, the chaos. Everybody wants to see a good fight, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of UFC fans watching, boxing fans, and some people be like, man, that's a sanctioned sport, and it's the violence, man. People love violence. People, they glamorize the villain, right? And on that night, man, Adam was the villain. Adam was the dude that was about that business, man. And he was a tough dude. Make no mistake about it. One of the toughest dudes I probably ever met in my life, not just in prison. This dude was really that dude. He was a tough dude. And that's one of the wildest things that I've seen in prison, man, was, when a cop gets hit up. What do you think happens after that? They lock us all down. They're searching everything. People are losing everything. They go and take everything off the commissary that you could possibly make wine with. Sodas, no longer have sodas. Honey buns, gone. And for some reason, people in prison love honey buns, right? Let me get 2 honey buns. Oatmeal pies, whatever they had that had sugar, gone. Everything's gone. Dude got drunk, hit the cop up. It's time. They take all the sugar products off the commissary. So now, man, if you got a little sweet tooth, you're hit. Eventually, they started bringing back in diet sodas and stuff like that. But that didn't stop the wine making. That didn't slow anything down. People still make wine. People still make moonshine. So, like I said, man, one of the wildest things I've seen in prison. We're going to be doing some more documentaries on, famous prisoners and stuff like that. Like how we did the Larry Hoover thing, how we did the thing with Rayful Edmonds. I think people enjoyed that. So we'll start doing that stuff. Stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this one on a Saturday night. It's a short one, but it's a good one. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.